Women in Leadership, brought to you by HeronCode, the management consultancy for what happens next. For more information, you can visit HeronCode.com. Welcome back to the HeronCode podcast, Women in Leadership Season 2. Ladies and gents, we enjoyed Season 1 so much. We had the most incredible guests take to our podcast and you guys received it so well. So it is even better that we have an incredible Season 2 lined up for you here this season. And I'm Nimi Mehta. For those of you, I'm back. Season 2 is going to be fantastic. I'm excited because we have our first guest of the season. And today, you're hearing it a bit later, but right now we are recording on International Women's Day, which is just so fitting and appropriate for the guest we have on today. She is a chemical engineer with an MBA degree. She has built her career in the last 23 years within the fast-moving consumer goods industry in commercial functions. She's done this across 3 multinational companies and globally in countries such as Turkey, Egypt, India, and the Arabian Peninsula. She has also been recognized many times by Forbes Magazine as one of the most successful CEOs in the Middle East. Please welcome to the HeronCode Women in Leadership podcast, Melda Yasar Cebe. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the nice introduction. And you made me, a bit embarrassed.
Not at
saying
all
of those. But yeah, thanks for the opportunity. And it's great to be here with you on the International Women's Day and as the first episode of Season 2.
I know. I'm so thrilled to have you here. And I know sometimes it's quite, cringe or embarrassing to hear your accomplishments. Sometimes you have to pinch yourself and be like, are they talking about me? And we are talking about you. And we're so thrilled to have you on the podcast here today, Melda. Your career has been incredible. 23 years within, such a vast industry which has developed and you have developed on a personal level as well. So I'd love to take you back to where it all started, which has been a theme on the HeronCode podcast, because I think that in order to acknowledge where you are today, we need to understand where it came from. So tell me, why did you go into this particular industry and what kind of started your love for it?
It wasn't planned. I'm Turkish. I was born in a mid-sized city to a middle-income family, teacher, banker, parents. But I was a curious, smart kid, and I showed strength in math and science during my education. And as a natural progression, I found myself in engineering school. It wasn't necessarily the common choice for a girl in my country at that time. So, people around me were questioning my choice, whether I should really go to engineering. Mm-hmm. But I'm super happy that I did. I think I got the analytical skills during that education, but I was only, one of the few girls in the class, among 50 boys. Once I finished engineering, although I enjoyed the education, I realized that it's really not fitting with my expectations from life. I'm really an extrovert person, like working with big teams. And when you're an engineer, generally, on the assembly line, you're with smaller teams. Sometimes you're alone. So I said, you know what? I want to work in marketing. It's really, part of life. You're in touch with so many human beings. But then people told me, no, you're an engineer. How can you work in marketing? I did my MBA, pushed myself to find a job in marketing. And again, I was a bit different there too, because I was one of the very few engineers in the entire marketing function. After some time, I realized that if I really want to build a brand properly, it's not enough to know marketing, but you also need to understand sales. How does that product actually land in the consumer's hand? So I wanted to move to sales. Again, people were questioning. My manager was like, yeah, but marketing is easier and it's more fit for a woman. We can be in the office, in the ivory tower, meetings with the agencies. Why do you really want to go to sales, be on the field? It's physically demanding. And in a country like Turkey, it's not always, the conditions for women are not necessarily comfortable. But I wanted to try that as well. Then I did sales. And I think I realized that I'm really enjoying what I do. I'm trying different functions. And I said, okay, this is something that I enjoy. I enjoy it holistically, and I should stay in this industry for longer. And since then, I've been in FMCG, building brands.
Wow. We say the rest is history, but there is so much history there that we are going to get into, absolutely. And one thing that really stands out to me in what you've just told me is that you had constant resistance right? From your society, from your community, maybe even from your culture. Could you tell us more about how incredibly like mentally strong you had to be for that, and very self-aware as to who you are and what you want to continue pursuing what you truly wanted out of your career?
Yeah, very, very true. Yeah. Unfortunately, I come from a part of the world where the norms, the societal norms, are based on long-lasting traditions, and most of them are not necessarily fair, especially if you're coming from an underprivileged group, female, it might be something else, your ethnic background. You have to follow those norms, and they might not be really, what you want from life. So you need to find the courage to say no and to rebel and to challenge those norms. And I think to a large extent I was able to challenge those norms. To start with, I think I have to give credit to my family because they never treated me or my brother differently. Like I never felt like I'm inferior or I am less, I can do less. So I think it really starts at home, how you're wired by your parents and the example that you see at home. But I think after that, what I realize is that, yes, I'm a woman. That's part of who I am, part of my identity. But that's not it. There's more to me than just being a girl, a woman. And my capabilities, my ability to learn, to progress doesn't depend on my gender. It depends on my brain. So I always kept reminding myself that. But of course, at times, maybe you need to work a bit harder than your male colleagues because what comes to them easily, naturally, what's offered to them by the society is not offered to you. So although you believe yourself and you know that you have what it takes, you might need to put a little extra effort and be okay with that. So I think that's how I got where I got.
Absolutely. And I think what's also brave of your story and your journey is the not being afraid to try something new. I mean, engineering, a normal person would have just stuck to it. You switched to marketing, then switched to sales. Where did this need come from to, I guess, discover yourself more in different sectors of the industry?
I don't know where it came from, but I know that I'm a very curious person. I like exploring, and it's not just at work. I like exploring different cuisines. I like exploring people, traveling, reading different types of books. I mean, as we speak, actually, I'm preparing to move to Singapore, to another part of the world.
Wow.
Because there's so much to learn, and I'm a small piece in this world, so that curiosity keeps me going. I think changing departments, changing companies, geographies, or even studying engineering and then an MBA is coming from that curiosity. And I kept feeding it. I think that's the source of my passion. And every time I tried something new out of that curiosity, of course, at the beginning it's difficult. It's not easy, of course, but it's not about being happy every day, right? I mean, maybe the transition is a bit difficult, but then every time I tried something new, I realized how much it elevated me, how much it pushed me. So getting out of that comfort zone has been always very rewarding. Now I'm aware of it, so it's easier to be curious. But I think at the beginning, well, maybe it was my instinct.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think we do live in a world where instant gratification is something that we have, right? So short-term goals, people are mostly focused on that, but it's the long-term vision. It's the overall future or the legacy that you're looking to build. So tell me, when you went into marketing and then sales, where did you see your career going? And has it planned out the way that you saw it?
I think maybe 5-6 years into my career, I have decided that, yes, I like this industry. I want to grow in the FMCG because it's very fast-paced. It's in touch with the world. I like building brands. It's also very holistic. It's not one discipline, but there is, production of the product. There is R&D. There is innovation, sales, marketing. So it's really I can keep exploring. It's never boring. And the trends change, consumers change. So it actually works to who I am because I like that change. I like the exploration. So I think I decided at that time. And since then I've been talking to people in the industry, outside the industry, getting mentorship to understand, where can I go and what are the paths that will take me there. Career is not linear. There is not one way to go to the end vision. There are different alternatives. One thing I realized at that point, from talking to different people, geographical experience helps a lot. Learning different consumers, different trades, different media channels, it really increases your understanding of the business. So that was one thing that I understood definitely. Changing the categories. I mean, I worked in healthcare, baby care, household products, food. Again, that understanding of different categories, different consumers give you a better perspective, that diverse understanding of the consumers. So I think these are the things I learned from people by asking, and since then I've been trying to try as many categories, companies, geographies as I could to keep building my experience and my diverse understanding. And yes, I mean, I wanted to lead a multinational organization, lead a team, and I'm so lucky that life brought me where I am.
Well, it's luck and it's hard work and it's conviction in what you do, right? And I think what's so interesting as well is how we spoke about you're trying different things, but then also professionally is incredibly important, but personally is a whole other thing. And whether you're a male or a female, this all comes hand in hand. I feel like we're in a time now, and there's been a massive shift since COVID, where people are realizing, on a personal level, if I'm not happy personally, I'm not going to pursue anything professionally. So if you don't mind me indulging more into your personal life, how has that been for you? I mean, I believe you have a family now. You are married with beautiful children. Where is the balance there? Because people talk about a balance, but we spoke to a guest in season 1 who said, I don't think it's about finding a balance. I just think there's no right or wrong. It's just finding what you're comfortable with. So how has that process been in juggling a massive, successful career, but then also being successful on a personal level as well?
I mean, I agree with that, the lady who you talked during season 1. I also don't think anymore there is work and life and you try to balance it. I think it's more of an integration these days. So you need to find the right integration for yourself as well, for what you're trying to do for your family. And sometimes work might take much more time in a week, and the following week it might be your life that takes more. And I don't think there are very rigid boundaries between the two. So it's more of an integration the way I see it. But I think it also starts with enjoying what you do. I really enjoy what I do. So it's not like I don't feel like I'm sacrificing from my personal life to do what I do. I find satisfaction there. So it's not a debate between, today I'm going to work, I should have stayed home. So I think it starts with really enjoying what you do and trying to find some purpose in what you do as well. If you're just working for the money, I'm assuming that it's maybe more difficult. But if you're finding personal satisfaction, purpose in what you do, then it keeps you going, and you don't think about how many hours I worked and how much effort I put into this, because it's taking you to where you want to go personally and professionally. But maybe another angle is the support system and who you have around you. By support system, I mean it might be your family members, it might be your husband, or if you can afford, it might be a help at home. I mean, I personally had the privilege to have a support system. In the earlier years of my career, it was more maybe my mom or my mother-in-law were coming to help in with the kids. Later on, once we had more maybe financial means, we decided that we will invest more into having help at home and maybe less into having a designer bag. It's a personal choice, right? So the choice was to build that support system so that when I come home from work, I don't need to spend time for cleaning, laundry, but I can spend the time with my kids. And then finally, I mean, your partner, my husband, I think has been key in helping me to find the right integration in the work-life balance. So he does his part, I do my part, we plan together, and yeah, it works. But of course, it's not perfect all the time. It doesn't mean that I don't have difficult days where I feel like I overworked or I'm overwhelmed. but on the long term, I think it's okay, and it's about knowing what you want.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I think I saw this quote the other day that said, the most important decision you will ever make in your life is the partner you choose to do life with. And that stuck out to me because we don't think about this enough. And I think that the younger generations are actually now thinking about it more. There might have been pressures with previous generations to just follow the norm. But now with what we want to achieve in life as women, we need to think about these things. So your husband also has a very powerful, high-flying job. For you both to balance that, how does that dynamic work? Not to get into couples therapy, but
I mean, sometimes we get couples therapy as well.
Yeah.
So it's not always perfect. We're not the perfect couple, but I can share what has worked for us so far. And I'm sure every couple will find their own ways of managing their lives together. For us, I think the starting point is agreeing on what's our family mission, or what are we trying to achieve? What's our purpose as a family? Not just as a couple, but also for our kids as well. We don't have a written document of purpose, mission, vision like a corporate, but broadly, we know where we want to land. We know what are the values that are important for us, what are the values we want to pass on to our kids. I think it's really important to have that alignment, because if you don't have this, the same vision, then it's super easy, I think, to get distracted. One might go one way, the other might go the other way, and it will create a lot of friction on a day-to-day basis. So I think that's first. I would say we have that ground rules, the alignments. The second thing is we have agreed that we will not make tactical decisions for our careers or for our kids, whatever, but we will always plan ahead, have a long-term plan, and decide accordingly. So there's always a long-range plan that we have in mind. Okay, the next 3 years, what do we want to do for the kids, for us, for our careers? So that planning has helped. We over-communicate.
which is great.
I mean, I think it's better than communicating less, because so much happening in his work in mine.
Yeah.
We all have our stresses, but we try to keep the communication flowing. And then I think together we have been able to create that support system, the two of us and the surroundings. So, I mean, even our assistants, our executive assistants, they see both of our calendars. Sometimes they talk to each other to help us. So they are part of the the extended support system as well. So with planning.
But this is the thing. I think that's so fascinating, and I'm so glad you're sharing this, because some people just think that it happens so easily. But behind closed doors, there needs to be structure within a relationship, because that is how you both get to pursue and be the best versions of yourselves. And what you mentioned was passing on the values to your children as well. How important has it been for you to see your children see you work hard?
It is important for me, because I really want them to appreciate hard work, and that life is not that easy. And especially, I mean, they're born and raised in Dubai, and in Dubai we're so privileged, we're spoiled. It's an amazing city. But life is sometimes too easy for the kids, and they are not necessarily able to see the importance of hard work. So definitely, I mean, it's important for us, for them to see that. But it's not just the hard work; it's the resilience, but it's also the curiosity to learn. These are all the values we're trying to pass on to them. But of course, they are not also very happy that mom and dad are not there all the time, or not accessible all the time. But I think overall, I mean, they are happy. They understand.
They understand. That is key, because there's communication there, so they get it. Now, I want to switch back to professionally, because I think what you have done for your community and your industry has been incredible. You are focused on diversity and inclusion. You're an advocate for this. So I'd love to hear from you why you think that is such an important thing, and why your heart kind of went that way, and why is that important for businesses to look at and actually improve within their structure?
Sure. I think my awareness about the importance of diversity and inclusion started more when I moved to Dubai 13 years ago, because this is such a melting pot of people from different backgrounds, not just gender, nationality, religion, but in all ways of you can think of diversity. And I had the chance to experience it in the office with my team, to see how it really helps to build a community, to build the business. So I think the awareness started more at that time. Why I believe it's important, when we're different in terms of all those gender, nationality, background, we bring different perspectives to the table. Then when we're making a decision, it's not just one idea or two ideas on the table, but there are multiple ideas, and we can from those pick the best one. But I think that's the easier part to understand why diversity is good. But this is also just the tip of the iceberg. I think there's more to it. What I mean with that is, when we're similar, it's very easy to get into a groupthink atmosphere. Nimi, this is a great idea. I like your idea. I think the same. Then we become a bit lazy. We make that decision quite easily. New ideas don't come because we're similar. I like your idea. I like yours. It's easy to make a decision. When we are very different, it actually makes us to work harder, because if I know that you're coming from a complete different background, have different experience, have a different point of view, even before that meeting, I'm going to prepare better. I'll come to you, I'll be ready to answer your questions, I'll challenge you back. So collectively, through that process, we will become smarter. So in my opinion, diverse teams actually make each other smarter. So eventually, the results are much better. And I have seen this definitely in my teams. Of course, the process is more difficult. When it's a team of homogeneous people, you decide very easily. There is harmony, and you think, okay, this is a great team because we can make decisions very fast. There is no friction. Everyone loves each other. But I think it's wrong. There is value in that process being a bit painful, people challenging each other, because what you get at the end is more precious compared to the first.
100%, and it's always worth it in the end. But there are some leaders within big organizations that I guess need to shift their perspective, I guess. So would you have any tips or words of advice for those leaders, if they're listening right now, to actually change their perspective on the diversity and inclusion side of things within their business?
People pretending that they are actually caring for diversity and inclusion without really understanding what it means for them. So I think there is still a lot that needs to be done, the organizations need to do, to really explain why it matters. Sometimes it can be explained by data, because there is scientific data why diverse teams are bringing better results. Maybe it's sometimes by examples, but I think before any advice to the individuals, to the leaders, to the companies, my recommendation is really to build the understanding of the importance of diversity and inclusion, not just celebrating the International Women's Day by giving a flower to their female employees, but really explaining to the male employees why it's important to have gender balance in the workforce. So it's I believe really important. By the way, with this question you can see the passion coming out.
Yeah, no, and I love it.
But to the individual, to the leaders, I think one trap that we might all fall into, and sometimes I do as well, we tend to hire people that are similar to us. Because there is already a chemistry. Subconsciously there is a bias because we get along better, we think very similar. So I think the best advice I can give is, please try to avoid recruiting people that are similar to you, similar to your profile. Create a more diverse team. And then the second advice might be, it's important to have the right balance of profiles in a team. So the team is as strong as the consolidated capabilities of the organization. So when creating a team, it's really important to understand what each can bring to the table and try to create a team in that manner.
And I think that's so important, and I hope that people do take note of this. And it being International Women's Day today, I think it should be International Women's Day every day, but here we are. I thought about women who have kind of transformed my life, and it took me back to just taking a moment to remember that actually my best moments in my career was when other women empowered me and made me feel stronger and supported me and lifted me up. So I wonder if you've had those moments in your career that you can take us back to, or that you can tell us about and share with us here today.
I think the first woman that is inspiring for me is my mom. As I shared with you earlier, my mom and my dad, they never stopped me when I wanted to try something new. There was always a lot of encouragement. So my mom wasn't necessarily the strong business leader, but she was, I think, inspirational because she's a very courageous woman. Then in my career, I had multiple female managers that I reported to, and honestly, all of them were quite supportive. So I was lucky in that sense to see good examples of female leaders. But now I don't remember an exact moment. But what I know is that it's really important to have role models, because many times when I talk to younger women about their careers, they ask me, okay, how did you manage to have 2 kids and a career? How does it work? What does your husband say? They have a lot of concerns. They have a lot of worries. And I feel like some of those concerns are there because they haven't seen the right examples. Seeing is believing. See the examples around you. It's very difficult, I think, to visualize that it's possible. And then there are a lot of stereotyping. So what I try to do as much as possible, be part of podcasts like this, or go and be a speaker, just to show that it's possible, and give more role models to younger women, so they know that they can do it. If I did it, they can do it. They can do better.
Absolutely. And I know you mentioned earlier that, a lot of the teams that you were in were quite male dominated, and being in that kind of environment. You also mentioned you were an extrovert. So I wonder, was there ever moments where Melda became an introvert because of the intense environment and the power of men around her? Did that ever occur?
I think it happens till today, hopefully much less. I don't know if you heard something called imposter syndrome. So I think that happens to most of us women. I think it's a more female challenge than male. So questioning maybe one's self-worth. Am I really the right person in this role? Am I really making the right decision? What are these guys thinking about me? So yes, those moments happen. But I try to pull myself out of that by reminding what I have achieved earlier. But also sometimes just calling a good friend and asking them, hey, give me some encouragement. Tell me why I'm good in what I do. And it really helps. But yes, there are those moments. It's not always, great. So there are days where I'm like, okay, can I really do it? But then, I find that energy to come back.
And that, I guess, the tribe around us, we've spoken about it, and you kindly shared with us, the support system that you have around you. But let's specifically talk about friends, because I think this is so important for younger girls and even grown women to understand that, they say the average of the 5 people closest to you, that is your, and so if there's one person bringing you down, then it's going to bring down your average completely. Definitely. How important is it to also, I guess, structure and strategize for the tribe around you? We spoke about structuring a relationship as a couple, but also your friends.
No, great question. My friends, my close friends are equally important in my life as my husband or my kids. And I'm lucky to have, really great people around me. And I'm also lucky that they are not very similar to me. I have friends that are similar to me as a personality, and some are quite different. But they're all very passionate people, very passionate women, I would say. So there's that, close friends that I have where when I'm not able to find the energy to move forward, they're the ones I would call and get some support. But the tribe is not just them. I think within the tribe, you need some maybe senior people with the right experience, maybe more like mentors that you can, call and say, hey, I'm having this difficulty. What do you do when it happens to you? I became much more intentional about creating this tribe, especially the mentors and the peers. For me, the sisterhood is super important, and I suggest all the young women to start building that. It takes time. It takes time and effort, but later on you realize the importance of having that network, that support to push you up.
Incredibly important. I think that it's actually carved me as not just a human personally, but professionally as well. And I got asked a question the other day, which I would love to ask you now, if that's okay. And that was, what has been the best moment of your career so far? Has there been a standout moment? And it could have been early days, it could have been recent, but something that really stands out to you.
Maybe what's interesting is when those amazing things happen, the moment it happens, you actually don't know. You're not aware of it. You realize that it has been the best thing that happened maybe 6 months later or a year later. At least for me, this is my experience. When it happens, you don't realize, because change is not easy to embrace. So it takes me time to understand that it has been actually an amazing thing that happened to me. I think the amazing thing, the first thing that happened to me was I was working for the Gillette company, and I loved the company. I loved the brands. I loved my team, my manager, and I thought I'm going to retire from that company. That was my first job, and I was in love. It's my first love. And Procter & Gamble, another FMCG giant, acquired Gillette. And at that moment, I thought this is the worst thing that could have ever happened to my career, because that's my dream company. I'm working there, and now my dream is over. And I was devastated maybe for 6 months. Now when I go back, because that's where I realized that once you get out of your comfort zone, when you try something new, you actually grow faster. So I learned a different company culture, different categories, different people. And maybe the curiosity started at then, to your earlier question. But at that moment, I didn't realize it was a good thing. Now I know that it was amazing. I was forced to try something else.
Right. And you learned so much from it. And I think that we also, just as humans, have this idea that our identities are attached to a company, right? And we think that's our home and that's our safe place, when actually it's within you. Did you ever have that moment? I guess that sounds like that was a moment where you had to find who Melda was away from Gillette, right?
Indeed.
And how was that process for you? And that voice that you had in your head, what were you saying to yourself to actually, realize that?
Exactly what you said, right? Hey, I was successful in Gillette because of who I am. It's not about the company, it's about me, and I will find my way in the next organization or the following organization. So it's the self-belief and reminding yourself that you can do it. And if it is not enough, just call a girlfriend.
They'll make you feel better always over a cup of tea. Because I think what's quite interesting is how the workplace, how companies have just completely restructured and changed their ethos, I guess, on the way of work. I think Sharjah shifting to a 4-day working week has been huge. We're hoping Dubai, Abu Dhabi will take course very, very soon. How do you think things have shifted, specifically within your workplace, that has really stood out to you?
Yeah, it's I think it accelerated most of the trends. There were already trends in digital, in the workspace, but maybe with COVID we saved 20 years, and the workplace evolved much faster than we all thought. Of course, pandemic was difficult for all of us, but I think in this crisis there were also some positives in the workplace, and we all evolved. I think that the major change is this ability to work remotely. So we're not necessarily going to the office space every day, and offices are becoming more collaboration areas, not necessarily working areas. So this is the same for our office, but I know many companies are following the same. If you have to work on something on your own, but if you need to collaborate with a team, then this is when you come for interactions, for that human touch, to feel part of a team. I think that's there to stay. No one wants to give up that privilege now.
Yeah.
Although the COVID is over, I think everyone enjoyed this, and we want to keep it as is. And I think it helped with the work-life integration that we discussed earlier too. Right now we're saving the commute time. There's a bit of more flexibility in what you have to do. And I think that's also great for the female workforce because generally, I mean, unfortunately, but generally moms are the ones who are taking care of the kids. They, pick up the kids, drop the kids from school, prepare lunch, prepare snack boxes. It was more difficult for them to maybe, work in a demanding job because they have to allocate their times for the families as well. Now, with working from home, I'm seeing that moms are able to manage their lives better, the demands of the family and the demands of the work place. So hopefully this will increase the number of women in the workforce and, in the upper parts of the parliament. I think that's another change that we will see in the coming years. And finally, I think it will also help the diversity as well, because now, I mean, we might be in the same team, one of us living in India, the other one in, Singapore and Dubai, because there is no more the rigid need of us all being in the same place, right? So I think this will also improve the diversity, and the technology is enabling that as well. So yeah, I think it's a change for good.
Yeah, absolutely, it's positive, and I think the flexibility has led to greater focus, but also a greater result of mental health well-being within the workplace, right? I mean, the higher up management are actually seeing the importance of this, that if they look after their staff on a mental health wellness level, you'll get greater results on a business level. Have you seen that shift?
Indeed, I think it's the awareness is getting there. I don't think as leaders we have found the new ways of leading yet. It will take some time, but it really changed, right? Earlier, when you're a manager, you're a leader, your team is in the office, you see them every day, you know how many hours they are working, you go into meetings together. It was more of, maybe I'm exaggerating it, but the managers kind of controlling what you do. And through that control, there was the belief that the performance will come through. Because, okay, I know Nimi is spending 8 hours in the office. She's working on those. She comes 5 days. Okay, she should be able to deliver this report for me by the end of the week. Now that control is not there anymore, right? Yeah. You're working from home. I have no idea about what you're doing. I have to trust you.
Yeah.
I have to give you the right enablers, right tools. And I need to have a trust-based relationship to make sure that you're actually doing what you have to do and you're delivering. And for that trust relationship, I think it's very important that both of us, the manager and the employee, the leader and the employees, have that mental wellness. Because I think trust only happens when both individuals are comfortable under their skins and they don't have other worries.
Yeah.
So yes, all of this changed, but I think it's not easy. Like all the tools that we have learned, I mean, what I have learned in the first 20 years of my career in terms of leadership, managerial skills, I mean, they're not all valid now. I need to find new ways of building that trust over Teams or Zoom screen.
Yeah. And that trust, let's hope in the long term it's built even more solid and people really, on the manager side and as the employee, realize the importance of that relationship. It's been so wonderful sitting down and talking to you here today. I feel like we could sit here for hours and talk. You have shared so much, of your journey personally and professionally, which I'm really, really hoping, and I'm sure our listeners are going to benefit from greatly. Melda, I want to thank you so much for your time, and I hope you've enjoyed it. This is your first podcast episode.
Yes, I enjoyed a lot.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Women in Leadership, brought to you by HeronCode, the management consultancy for what happens next. For more information, you can visit HeronCode.com.